Hi, I'm Phil Malto, and welcome to Snowmobiller TV. On today's show, we open up by going to a vintage snowmobile show. If you like loud sleds with lots of color, lots of noise, and lots of smoke, you're going to like it today. We're at the Couchard Classic, organized by Gordon Bain. Also in today's show, we're going to Bancroft to ride the excellent trail system in that region.
STV is sponsored by Yamaha, revs your heart. Kimpex, fueled by fun. And by Skidoo, never stop pushing.
As you can see, and probably hear, I'm at a vintage event here in Auctioneros, somewhere in central Ontario. Let's check out some of the incredibly rare sleds that are on display here today.
This is our second annual Couchard Classic Snowmobile show. And this is our new venue, and we're really happy with the turnout so far. I think the draw is nostalgia. It's what a lot of us did with our dads as kids. We grew up with these things in Haliburton, in this area, in Ontario, road snowmobiles, and it's just kind of going back to our youth for a lot of us. And there's a new generation that have interest too. So that makes it all the more fun having young people involved. Well, back in the early 70s, of course, there were over 100 manufacturers. Now there's just 4. So it made it, to me, it was more interesting back in those days. It was more of a challenge with your buddies, with all the different manufacturers. It was just more fun back then. And the race sleds, again, as you say, are very unique. But these machines here are everyday riders that, again, a lot of us grew up with our dads and grandfathers, and it's just brings back a lot of memories.
This is a great turnout, way better than last year. It's better temperature-wise, and there's a good variety of sleds here of all different makes, and everybody's having a good time. They made 124 of this engine layout. There was 460 King Cats altogether, but 124 of this engine. I've had it for 25 years, and I always wanted one for my dealership, and finally found one. But I'm no longer a dealer, but I kept the King Cat. I seen them at the Kawartha Internationals in 1971, and I said to my dad then, I said, I'd love to have one of these someday. I always wanted a King Cat. And when the opportunity came along, I snapped her up.
It's 1974 Snowjet 650. It was only made half season. They made a 440 Saberjet in 74, and then halfway through the season, Snowjet was trying to save the company, so they had these 650 Hearsts. They put them in about, there was less than 300 of them, trying to save the company, put it out there, and it sold really well. But after that, not too long after, Kawasaki bought them, and then they were history. But to find 650s are pretty rare. Some people think I built it because they've never seen one. Anybody that had a 440 would recognize it. They probably haven't seen a 650 either. A guy that we're sitting with today actually had a 440 way back in the day, and he'd never seen a 650. And we've talked to people at shows that have raced Thunderjets and still never even seen one. So it's pretty rare.
This is the Invader made by Drake Industries out of Michigan. It's strictly a racing snowmobile. In 3 years production, they made somewhere between 11 and 20 sleds. I know of about 10 of them. And this one's ultra rare because it's never been run. It's brand new. It's 1974.
Never been run?
It's never been run. It might have run across the factory floor in 1974, but it was cornered in the factory because I don't think the free airs could compete with the liquid cools, so they didn't run this one. It's brand new.
Well, I tell you, in 1978, there was 2 of these sleds. These 2 440s are 2 of 12 that were manufactured. One was raced by Bobby Donahue out of Wisconsin Rapids, Minnesota, and the other sled was raced by Doug Hayes out of Crandon, Wisconsin. Both factory supermod racers. This one snowmobile here, this Doug Hayes sled was built just for the Eagle River race, and it was raced at Eagle River on January 12th, 1978. This sled of Bobby Donahue's was raced at Alexandria and again at West Yellowstone, and we brought them back to life, and they're a great part of snowmobile race history, especially for Skidoo factory racers, and I'm hoping everybody's enjoying them at the show.
I guess it'll almost just be the racing heritage. Back in the day, they pretty much dominated the late 70s in racing, and they were way ahead of their time. Very popular sled. Mercury Marine themselves, very popular. They only lasted for, well, the Twisters were only about 3-4 years. One, they were very light chassis. I think the liquid snow Twisters, I've heard a lot people talk around 320 pounds. I believe the trail chassis are around 360. Which is pretty light for a sled overall, especially back in the day too. And you throw that Kohler power with short aluminum skis and just a short little body, and you got a heck of a race sled going.
There's something about these vintage shows that is timeless magic. These snowmobiles left their mark on our culture. They represent a magical era when people conquered winter by getting outside and enjoying the snow rather than hiding inside. Families would fire up these sleds, put the kids in the sleigh, and head out for a day of winter fun. The era of these sleds was also an era of freedom. There were no fishing licenses, no snowmobile licenses, and many sleds were never even insured. After all, if you bounced off a tree, you pounded out the dent, you fiberglassed the hood, and you were good to go. Nobody ever rode off one of these machines. It was garage repair time at its finest. The simplicity of these sleds is quite incredible. You won't see high output ignitions, no injection systems, and their primitive suspensions were designed to move a mere 3 inches. After all, that was the expectation. The sound of these is as memorable as the smell. Every sled was loud, and every sled had the primitive 30-to-1 fuel oil mixture that left everyone's winter clothing with a unique permanent odor. The winter of 2015 has presented some challenges for snowmobilers in many areas trying to find decent snow. I was lucky enough to hook up with Craig Nicholson, the intrepid snowmobiler, and we rode out of the Bancroft Inn and Suites here in central Ontario, and we found some excellent trail riding conditions.
Okay, so we're riding in Bancroft, Ontario, and Bancroft has a lot of big advantages for snowmobilers. The first is that it's a town of about 4,000 people, which is large enough that it has a lot of services and amenities like Shoppers Drug Mart, McDonald's, Canadian Tire, 2 snowmobile dealers, everything you need from a major center. The second thing is that it is a snowmobile-friendly town. A large portion of the population here owns their own snowmobiles, go riding, so they understand what snowmobiling is about. And you can ride around town on your snowmobile without getting nasty looks, and there's lots of good snowmobile access. So from the perspective of the town, that's great. Now in terms of access, Bancroft is located at the intersection of Highway 28 and 62, and it's only about 2 hours north of the 401 corridor, so it's an easy ride for a lot of the population in Ontario. And really good highway access to get here. So those are the first 2 important things. The next most important thing is that the Hastings Heritage Trail, which is a linear trail that runs north-south, it's a rail trail, an old abandoned rail line, runs from about Highway 7, just south of Highway 7, all the way up to Lake St. Peter. It's the backbone of the system here. and all the other trails run off of the Hastings Heritage Trail. So there are 3 great day loops to ride out of Bancroft. So you come up here for a weekend or a long weekend, you can ride 3 separate loops, different trails. There's the Bon Echo Loop, which runs to the southeast. There's the Hastings Highlands Tour, which runs to the southwest. And there's the Madawaska Loop, which runs to the north. So you've got 3 great days of riding here, plus a whole pile of other local trails that you can explore to your heart's content. So from a riding perspective, there's lots of options. The next thing is that for whatever reason, it's in one of those snowbelt areas. It's a highlands area. There's the Halliburton Highlands and the Madawaska Highlands. And this area traditionally gets snow before and longer than most other places in southern Ontario. The other thing is that Bancroft is a cottage destination. So, it's used to having a lot of people in town in the summer because there's cottages all over the place. So they're used to that kind of hospitality. They're used to dealing with visitors. They're used to serving people from out of town. So that really helps snowmobilers too when they come into town. Okay, a couple of examples of the kind of things you can expect in Bancroft from a snowmobile-friendly perspective. A number of years ago, they built a specific snowmobile bridge to get across the York River from the Hastings Heritage Trail to access services in town. There's just north of town at Birds Creek, and right here in town there's 2 staging areas where you can park for day rides. So those are both things that a snowmobile friendly town does, and it's the kind of things that snowmobilers really like and look for. Good hotels in town. We're staying at the Bancroft Inn and Suites, easy to access, lots of parking, a great place to snowmobile out of.
We're really easy to find. We're right off Highway 62, but if you're coming in on your sled, we're also easy to access. So Trail B106E, which is the Heritage Trail, runs straight through town. It's pretty much the backbone of the trail system. We're located just off of that. Part of how it's good for snowmobilers is we live up here and we snowmobile up here ourselves. So as far as anticipating what snowmobilers need, we all have information, even our staff though, they're online every day checking trail conditions, making sure we know what to tell people, whether it's when they call wanting to know is this a good weekend to come or not. We make sure we've got the most accurate information for them.
When riding in this area, a lot of the trails are old logging roads. Some of them are also old abandoned rail lines. While riding along the old abandoned rail lines, I sometimes come across the old abandoned train stations. I can't help but get a little nostalgic when I see those old buildings. Lots of memories from World War I, World War II, and into the 50s when that was the main way of transporting people and goods in and out of these small towns.
There's a combination of abandoned rail lines and a whole lot of old logging roads. But there's not many tight, twisty, windy woods trails. So when you're riding out of Bancroft, you're riding a lot of wide sweeping trails that are easy ride trails. So from a perspective of where you can go in southern Ontario to ride, Bancroft is a great destination, and it's, as I say, easy to get to and easy to get back home from. It's a great place that a lot of people can come for just a day ride, great place for a weekend getaway, and a great place to stage from for a sledding vacation.
It is a more than miserable wind that is blowing across the village of Nain, but not near enough to deter the community from coming out in the wee hours to welcome the racers into town. Even with temperatures pushing -50 with the wind, it was a warm welcome for Teams 00 and 38 as they pull in off the sea ice through gusting snow to arrive first and second into the harbor front checkpoint. This is a community proud to be involved with Cane's Quest. As if riding over 2,000 kilometers wasn't enough, after checking in, the racers will be shuttled by sled over to the hotel where they will enjoy at least an 8-hour layover and maybe more depending on what they may have taken along the way at the previous communities from Postville on. Checking in at 7:56 a.m., local boys, Team 59, stuck to their plan for arriving in Nain.
I don't have a clue what it looks like, man. I never looked in a mirror for days, so I might have boogers or sleepies. Might have even bald spots.
How was your night last night?
It was a good night. We got to Natwashish and wanted to have a daylight showing here, so we stayed in Natwashish a couple hours. Took a couple hours off our time.
That big lump in my throat when I saw everybody there. Wasn't expecting that. It was freezing out and it was early, blowing the gale. But there was hundreds of people there. Couldn't believe it. First started the race, it was just about winning the race. But now it's became more than that. It's about the town more than anything now.
I got something on my chin. I don't know what it is. My balaclava's been soaking wet for so long. It's like that. Is it?
Given all the issues with weather impacting the pace and progress and the worst still yet to come, some tough decisions had to be made by organizers which would make major changes to this year's race.
We never like to be fooling with the route of the race, but this year we couldn't get our checkpoint crew into that remote checkpoint in Crystal Lake. They spent 4 or 5 days there in a raging storm. It was still a long race, still a hard race. It didn't take much in terms of that away from, but because the distance, I don't think it affected distance much, because they had to come down the south coast again, of course, but then you had a dog leg from Goose over to Churchill. So I think it's still going to be, I don't think it took much in terms of endurance away from it. And let's face it, these guys have been out there a long time. They probably did more snowmobiling in the past week than most people do in a winter or two.
The new route for racers would eliminate the inland route into Crystal Lake and instead have the teams double back to the north coast to Hopedale and then to Postville and on to Goose Bay again for an 8-hour layover. From there, they would go to Churchill Falls for a checkpoint, then onto a checkpoint at Esker, and then it's the final run to the finish line back in Labrador City. Given all the preparation in advance, the news of a new route would have an impact on the teams, and there was no shortage of opinion.
When we got up to the sea ice in Postville, it was a big relief for me that I wouldn't have to go back through it. But then I find out they got to go back anyway. Deal with it when it comes, I guess.
Interesting. We're all prepared to go inland, but we'll take it as it comes. I mean, I guess everyone will be obviously just familiar with what's coming up now, all the way back. So it should be an interesting finish for sure. But I would think most guys will just drive to survive to get that Goose Bay. But after that, it's game on.
Remember when Team 38 rolled into Postville way out in front of everyone, even surprising themselves? Well, it was in Nain that the mystery was solved and unveiled using the yellow brick tracking technology. Checking the computer, it is clear that Team 38 used the groomed trail to their advantage, which cost others their lead. Ultimately, a penalty was calculated and a new leaderboard would be established, leaving Nain.
Everybody that was up here went on down this lake, and they actually stayed at this green spot right here, which is a chalet. This red is the known groom trail. Each one of those pings is on that trail as a breadcrumb trace, okay? What we did then is we said, okay, using the GPS coordinates from Yellow Brick, where were they? They were here. Their next known coordinate was here, and that is, if we zoom right on in that trail there, just have a quick look, it's fairly close, and we can start passing along the trail to see how things fare out. There, we got them again here. We got them there. Here, the penalty was issued by compiling all those small increments of time, taking away the benefit they made on the trail, plus giving a penalty for running the trail, right, and the time difference that was made or lost by the other teams who were already in the lead. So it calculated out to be about an 8-hour penalty.
At Kimpex, one of our main focuses is to always push innovation further. here are some examples that have just came out for CKX, from extremely light MX helmets to new technology adapted in snowmobile. And also, here's a sneak peek of what you'll see next winter. First off, with the TX707. It's made out of carbon fiber and looks great with its aggressive style. Also equipped with a GoPro mount, at only 975 grams, it's one of the lightest helmets on the market. For the snowmobilers who ride with a modular helmet, everybody knows the trouble you get trying to replace your breath guard after opening your helmet. The Trans 1.5 by CKX is a modular helmet which includes a double molded breath box made out of rubber. This rubber breath box allows you to open and close your helmet and it'll fall right back in place. For anyone that has ever been on a sled ride with goggles, the worst feeling ever is to have their goggles fog up. With these goggles at CKX, we solve the problem. Just plug them to your sled and you'll be assured to have a fog-free ride. Last but not least, be prepared next winter. The CKX clothing line will be coming in brand new styles and color in a dealer near you.
STV is sponsored by Ultimax Belts. Performance proven, performance driven. Triton Trailers, the difference is in the details. And by CKX, wear your passion.
On next week's show, we're going to load up the trailer and head to Owen Sound to ride the great trail system of Grey and Bruce counties. We'll head to Labrador for Kane's Quest, where Team 00 in the lead runs into trouble. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate your comments and your input, so email me, phil@snowmobilertv.com, and also remember to check out our website for the latest videos. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week here on The Snow.